Hi, everyone, and welcome to Elevate Your Life on Dr. T TV. I'm Dr. T, and this is the place where emotionally sensitive people get the emotional tools they need to succeed. With me today is an amazing guest who is also a soul sister and a girlfriend. And I want to read you all her bio so you can get to know her as well. This is my dear friend, Elena Isolde Medici. And she is a master health and life coach and the founder of the 360 Health Program and the Medici Method. She is also the author of a newly released book called The Son of a Whore. Having healed herself of thyroid and hormone disorders, Elena had developed a method to help others reverse thyroid, hormone, and autoimmune conditions. Elena uses a whole person approach to make this possible by addressing the root cause of health issues, including but not limited to diet, deficiencies, genetic mutations, trauma release, mindset, environmental, and lifestyle factors. Elena has worked with women and men from over 30 countries and boasts an over 98% success rate. Elena is now working on her second book, Curable, which is set to release at the end of 2021. Elena, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm super excited. And I'm like a fool. I cannot stop smiling because
This is awesome.
anytime I see you, I get all giggly like a girl.
This is incredible. So yes, for everybody to know that Elena and I have known each other for years, and we have been in the field helping people have their most optimum health and life, and their most, incredible healing trajectory possible. And so, Elena, with that said, give us a sense of what really set you on this healing path, and to be at a point where you're doing all of this stuff that you're doing in the world.
Yeah, it's like all good underdog stories. That's where I start, Tracy. In a way past, I used to be a normal, healthy person living my normal life, and then a lot of stress happened, and some poor dietary and medical choices that I made, such as going on birth control and having some stressful time in my life that I actually had no control over. And my health took a nosedive. So I ended up with a triple diagnosis just about 15 years ago: hypothyroidism, a pituitary tumor, and infertility. And you know how painful it can be to live your best life only to end up looking back and saying, what just happened? And then you're going to go to the most trusted people like doctors, and they say, well, there's no way to reverse it. You're stuck with it forever. And you go, yeah, no. So the regular people say yes. Us irregular people like you and I would say, yeah, we're not going to sign up for this kind of answer. So I set out on the quest of saying, if there's no way to heal myself, I'm going to find a way to heal myself. My doctor told me there's no science to prove that what you want to do. When I asked him, can I reverse this disease? I said, all right, I can create the case and the science can come and study me. So what I've done is I was able to fully heal myself of all conditions. I have a rambunctious, beautiful 8.5-year-old. She thinks that she's 18 and she runs the world now. I reversed all of the symptoms of thyroid issues. Like my eyebrows were half missing, my hair was falling out, as you can see right now. No problem here. I lost weight in a process. I regained my life. I went from 5 years in depression to now every day is a sunny day. And what I've done is I started writing, blogging about it, and people started to reach out. Everybody was looking for hope. So the evolution happened. I started to first help one person at a time. And then before I knew it, we had people from over 30 countries now that we've helped. And we were able to replicate the same success with people when they're committed to their success, to the point that we're almost at 100% success rate. But it's only possible because we come from a point of nothing is impossible. So that's the short genesis of what made me me and what made me dedicate. I quit my previous life. I was in banking and education, photography. I've done a lot of things in my life. And I eventually said, if I can save at least one soul from the hell that I went through, then I would dedicate the rest of my life doing it. And thankfully, it's thousands of people since then.
You know, we've, how much I relate to this, being somebody who has always been more emotionally sensitive and going through life in a pretty stressful way in my young life, like so many people do. And then at a very young age, getting to a point and just recognizing I had all these symptoms, same thing, anxiety, depression, a little different than the things that you described, but some very similar things. And just that sense that, being told that everything's chronic, and
Mhm.
this whole age of like chronic health issues, and having an autoimmune disorder that I don't have anymore. And really, I think it's really profound how much that concept is still so prevalent in our society, that there are all these chronic health conditions. So Elena, what are some of the health conditions that people come to you for?
So the general overview will be hormone, thyroid, autoimmune. But if we were to drill it down, infertility, hypothyroidism, Graves' disease, Hashimoto's, thyroid eye disease, Sjogren's, PCOS, endometriosis. I can really go on, but anything that really fits in within that, because in some people, Tracy, at the end of the day, here's what I believe: that there's one disease, it just shows up in multiple ways. And the one disease comes from the root cause of poor diet, poor lifestyle choices, a lot of stress. And in a lot of people, it just will show up differently. In me, it was hypothyroidism. And you had an autoimmune response. In somebody else, it will be cancer. In somebody else, something else. What I find is if we take a holistic approach and treat the person, not the disease, then whatever the disease, the expression that they had of it will resolve itself on its own.
Yeah. Oh, I absolutely get this. So say that again, Elena. There's, you said it's one disease that, or one issue that shows up in many symptoms. Can you just say that again so we can,
Yes,
this is
I believe
close.
that there's one disease in people, one disease, it has multiple root causes.
Okay.
So on average, I'm going to look at 15 possible root causes of somebody's diseases. So the primary ones I'm looking at is the diet. There are possible deficiencies, because let's be honest, if there's poor diet and stress, you'll be deficient. I do look at genetic mutations. I look at lifestyle factors. Trauma is huge. For sensitive people, how we handle trauma and stress is going to be huge, because the more empathic you are, the more impacted you will be by those factors. Then I look at things like gut health, dental health, and other factors. But in all people, all these factors will express differently. In me, hypothyroidism; in somebody else's Hashimoto's; in somebody else's PCOS, and so on and so forth. But really, there's one disease, and that is the lifestyle disease that we have.
It's really profound when you think about how we can all conceptualize why, like, just say our diet, for example, is totally important. Like, this is the temple, this is the machine, right? This is what you're living in, and this is what's running. And yet, we wouldn't go to the gas station, or we wouldn't put oil in our car. We wouldn't
Mhm.
do, a multitude of things. And I just had this really a flash of deeper understanding on that, of how strange the psychology is around what people are willing to put in their body, when we wouldn't do that. We want our car to run the way we want it to. We put exactly the fuel that it needs.
Absolutely. So this morning I was pondering, I was pondering something, but I was pondering on this factor, that what I find fascinating, absolutely fascinating about humanity, Tracy, is this: most people will want to look for a quick microwave solution. So you're going to go see a doctor, take medication, you're going to throw supplements in, you're going to throw surgery in, because those are external factors. But when we invite people to go internal and look at the turmoil, the stress responses, the trauma, the other things, working on your mindset, most people kind of lock down. They go, no, I'm just going to go get more labs done. I'm just going to go get more supplements. But that work, the internal work that actually is transformative, and that for our clients create almost 100% success rates, most people don't want to go in there, because that means work, and that means changing yourself. And finally, it means taking full on responsibility. And that is the psychology that our society as a whole is programmed not to use. Because let's even look at this last year, 2020, and right now, we are victims. There's this virus out there, and we're victims, we're helpless. I refuse to believe that.
Yeah.
I believe we're not victims, but it's going to be the minority of people leading a pack eventually. And I think that what you and I teach is going to be, maybe 100 years from now, predominantly used as the main medicine.
Right. The main
But the
thing.
psychology of what we're going through right now is we're going to trash this body with bad lifestyle, no exercise, bad food. But then, of course, when it comes to some kind of expensive car or whatever we own, we're going to give it the best that we can afford. It makes zero sense. My investment, my first and foremost investment, is not my house. It's not my car. It's not even my bank account. It's me. Because if I'm not here, then who benefits from all the good stuff that I work for?
This is so important because you're right about this. The conditioning that we all have is a real emotionally mature one, right? It's also, it's not really accounting for cause and effect, right? That what we do like this, that physics are in play, and that if we treat ourselves badly, uh, things will be bad, right? If we treat ourselves well, things will be well, things will be wealthy. Um, and it really is, my sense is we're not educated from the get-go in personal responsibility, and even what I refer to as like selfology, like how this whole system works. And so it just reminds me, I know this is something we've talked about before, but it reminds me of a day in my kitchen where I just was, choosing from between one food and another. And I just had this moment of flashing forward to, and it was some sugar treat I was going to eat versus like a green apple. And I just had this moment of flashing forward to like getting a diagnosis of terrible diagnosis of something. And I saw myself and I thought to myself, if you're going to eat this, then just be totally accountable for what diseases you're creating. Otherwise, create something else. And it
Yes.
was a real game changer. It changed my life to go, oh, okay, literally, I'm creating my outcomes every single moment of every day, and I'll be responsible for anything that comes up. So, Elena, how does that resonate with you?
I could not agree more. So I went to a conference about 10 years ago, and I can't remember even the speaker's name right now, but anyway, so she's speaking and she mentioned how some people create this one day of treat. Even if you look at bodybuilders and people who work really hard on working out and being in shape, they have a treat cheat day. And what really put me in a frame of mind to having my aha moment was she said that there are 52 weeks in a year. One treat a week is 52 days, which is almost 2 months of mistreating your body. Are you okay with that? That was my aha moment that I forever changed how I view treats. And what I tell people when I work with them, and I work with majority women, Tracy, is that if you're going to decide to have an off meal, first of all, take full on responsibility. Don't say that you fell off the wagon. You willingly walked off of it. Then draw all the pleasure from it, but know that with that pleasure comes a consequence. If you're okay with living with the consequence, go ahead and do whatever the heck you want. So my psychology is absolutely with that. But with your permission, I want to take it a step forward
Yeah,
and a
go
step
for it.
further.
Yeah.
Okay. So here's hopefully this will serve everybody who is listening. Most of us will not admit, but we are addicted to a state of disease, and we draw pleasure from being sick. And this comes from somebody who is, I'm a doer. I will never say that I want to be sick. And mind you, I was sick for a long time, not because I thought I wanted to, but because I couldn't find an answer. But here's the real deal. And I work with women right now who, after weeks and weeks of like mulling over it, admitted to that there's pleasure in disease. And here's why. When we're sick, we get used to a certain way of treating ourselves and others having to tiptoe around us, right? When we're sick, others have to worry about, oh, maybe Elena has a headache. Maybe we should stay really quiet. Oh, mommy cannot go anywhere because she is sick. No, it's not my life, but I'm going to use myself as a fake example here. Oh, I had women sometimes who want to avoid intimacy with their spouses because there's no more love. Love is gone. But you can't just say no. But if you're sick, you
No.
can say no, and therefore staying sick has a payoff. So every illness, whether we want to admit it or not, if we had been chronically ill for a long time, we create a payoff system that has us say, I really, really want to go well externally, but internally we create a way to sabotage ourselves because we're addicted to the state of disease, whether knowingly or unknowingly.
Wow. This is really powerful, Lena. I completely agree with that. Um, I think there's an underlying conditioning that's been in humanity for a very long time. And, I think we both agree that there's a major cause of these emotional patterns create behavioral patterns. And if they get reinforced, right, if there is some payoff for being sick, then people are really loss avoidant and they don't want to lose that part of it. Because we're not necessarily in a culture where everybody you talk to is doing so much good for themselves and treating themselves really well, there's also this system of everybody talking about how crappy they're doing all the time. So one of the things that I also find is that when people come for help, they simultaneously are tired of the suffering, but they're also really worried to get well. They don't know, what is that going to be like? Will I lose people? And ultimately there's this fear of what they're going to lose.
Yes, I have a client right now. She's such a brave soul. When she finally had this aha moment, she shared it with you group calls every week. And she says, I've been thinking about what you told me, and I finally realized I don't even know what I'm going to become when I'm not sick anymore. And she said, it scares me. And this is the reality, is we're afraid, because let's look at even the support groups on social media. A lot of them are focused not on solution-based groups like ours and yours and mine is. They are focused more on blind leading and blind complaining. I saw a page a few years ago of a woman who suffered from endometriosis, and she had a huge following, like I think about 100,000 people or so. And one day she got really, really upset, and she didn't like that somebody told her that she can change her lifestyle and diet and get well. And she posted this angry post. I almost remember it almost verbatim. She said, hey, you there in the back, I want you to hear it, and I want you to hear it well. I am endometriosis. Like, she took this full on ownership of who she is, because, well, let's admit it. All these bloggers and what are they called now? Influencers. If they become different than the disease that made them popular, then their following goes away. In our smaller people lives who are maybe not as famous, we go, oh, what relationships will go away? Because if you're not complaining anymore and you're a sunny personality person, all of the people who used to complain with, and well, I will not use any coarse language here, but all of a sudden you don't fit into their environment anymore. And now you're pushed out. So there's the fear of losing your friendships and losing your family members. Anytime any brave soul decides to take full ownership and not be a victim anymore, they will always risk of losing some relationships in the process. At the end of the day, the big question is going to be, do you think you're worth it? Or if not, then of course you can remain in a state of disease if you're not brave enough to be independent.
Well, and I really have been referring to this for years as pain bonding, right?
Yes.
And I remember a long time ago living in New York and having so much fun with my girlfriends and doing Saturday and Sunday brunches and going out to dinners and recognizing at a certain point that we were just all talking about all these negative things, and of course talking about men and why they weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing. Mm-hmm. And I just really recognized, we were just bonding in pain all the time. And I realized that that's what most conversations are. Yeah. You meet a friend in the grocery store or whatever, and somebody says, how you're doing. It is the classic thing for us to talk about what's not working. And really we're pulling for empathy without maybe realizing it all the time. But to your point, there's a lot of conditioning around that, and then there's a lot of reward around that you're helping people admit to. Mm-hmm. And it really is quite a beautiful exploration and an adventure to go, what is it like to be optimally healthy and well and emotionally stable and personally responsible?
Yeah, just imagine when you wake up in the morning. Oh, I have to use this as an example. I just spoke with a client yesterday. She shall remain anonymous, but beautiful soul. Mm-hmm. She said her biggest aha moment was when she was planning her next vacation, and she realized that she always plans vacation around where she can find doctors. If she cannot find a doctor in that vicinity, she doesn't go there. She goes, there's no way in hell I'm going to live like this anymore. She said, get me off this medication as soon as possible. So what I do with her is I coach her. She works with her doctor to go off medication, since I'm not a medical doctor, but we put this process, and the moment she made that decision, all of a sudden, Tracy, her body responded in a way that the symptoms are going away like this, and her body is responding and her labs are improving, and doctors are like, yep, we can remove you and we can reduce medication, so on and so forth. But imagine when you wake up and you're no longer a victim and you're no longer dependent on others to tell you what to do and how to live, but you wake up and now say, I'm in control. I'm no victim. I should have brought I have a cap says zero victimhood on it. But you're not a victim, and now you're full on in charge, and you tell people how to treat you. and you tell yourself how you deserve to be treated. You look in the mirror and you go, whether there's hot lipstick or not, you're beautiful goddess you are. I love every cell in your body, and you're blessed, and you are going to succeed, and you're amazing, instead of saying, oh, you poor you, look at that extra fat roll on your chin. Oh my God, nobody's gonna love you. Oh, let me go complain and maybe post on Facebook and Twitter how horrible my life is. Instead, you turn around and say, you know what? I'm in control of my thoughts. I'm in control of my action. I screwed up royally, but now that I know I did it,
Yeah.
I'm nobody's victim, and I'm gonna take my life back. And that goes back, I know that you mentioned in the beginning that we just, my husband and I, we co-wrote, co-authored a book called Son of a Whore. We spent a lot of time in the book talking about how to exit victimhood for good, but at the same time, how to use all of the experiences that the victimhood might have created to prop us up and to help us create a beautiful future instead.
Wow. And I really invite everybody to get the book. Knowing your husband and knowing you two and your amazing journey. It's really profound. And I'm really excited about everybody getting the transformation from reading the book. Elena, so many things that you're saying resonate so much because, just thinking about what you said about the Facebook groups. And I remember at a certain point recognizing how many groups there were online where people, the main process, and this would be thousands and thousands of people, the main process was like just complaining, and then people really enabling that. And it really was stunning to me. I was really, quite honestly, kind of concerned that that's what's going on in the world, because the reality is that the more you're around people of that mindset, and the more you're around people who are sick, the more sick you're going to be. And then even as I say that, I recognize that it's unpopular to tell the truth about these things. And I've had a mentor refer to me as a maverick at a certain point, and I remember thinking, why do I have to be called a maverick because I'm telling the truth about a situation?
Mm-hmm.
But that's what this emotional leadership is all about, the things that we're doing in the world of transformation, because otherwise people are really sick with these lies and untruths, and being in a matrix of illness.
And I love that the word that you use, matrix, because we're born into a matrix. Now, I'm not going to go full on conspiracy theory, aliens, and all that stuff, but we're born into a world that conditions us to immediately give up your will. What do your parents do?
Yeah.
They tell us we're not smart enough to make our own decisions. Now, I have an 8-year-old, and she'll fight me on decisions, and I let her do it because I tell her, I want you to trust yourself. Mommy is right, but sometimes mommy is wrong. But most of our parents do what? Tracy, change that. You need to look different, put a different hairstyle on. I allow my child to dress herself, and I only provide her feedback as opposed to me laying it out for her, because I need her to trust her instincts, even in small things. So that's step number one. Step number two, you're going to go to kindergarten and school. You're going to be placed like cattle behind desks, and you're going to be taught to believe the same thing without critical thinking, to raise your hand even when you have to go pee in a bathroom, you have to ask for permission. So again, you're in a victimhood. You're not good enough to make your decisions. The next thing is we are brainwashed by the white coats, and white coats have God complex. They have MD after their name very often. Sometimes NDs equally liable for that, but they tell us that we're not smart enough to trust, to hear what's going on inside of our bodies. So it's a matrix. We're being brainwashed. You're not smart enough. You're going to come here. We're going to read your labs. I spoke with a woman this morning. She said, I was asymptomatic, but my doctor told me my thyroid needs to be cut out because there's goiter on it. But she had 0 symptoms, but now she has all of the symptoms. So the doctors, and I hear many stories from women when I work with them, Dr. T, is, well, my doctor made me do it. My doctor pushed me into a surgery. My doctor, I'm talking to one now. She said, I wish I had found you sooner, because this summer I had a full thyroidectomy and now I live in hell and I'm suicidal. That came from the fact, she said, I felt pushed by my doctor. Again, we submit that full will. Doctors tell us we have no choice. And I always tell people this, you know what makes slavery possible, right? people being quiet and doing nothing on their behalf. They're brainwashed into submission. And people used to use in the past religious texts to even keep people in submission. But all it takes, imagine there's one slave master and 100 slaves. If 100 slaves rise up at the same time and they decide that they're free people, the one slave owner has nothing to do and cannot outsmart them. The same thing happens in a real life. We are born into a matrix, just like you said, but it takes one person at a time to say, we're stepping outside of this matrix. And you know what? There are some good doctors. I agree with that. There are some good medical doctors. When Dimitri my husband needed 3 brain surgeries, I was ecstatic I lived in a Western world. But for chronic conditions, I'm saying things, but no things. You run my labs and I'm going to go look outside the system because I need to be empowered to know that if I created this mess, and that means I take full ownership of creating the mess, even if I was brainwashed in the matrix, then I say, then I should be able to uncreate this mess, but create success and health. So we are born into this matrix, and most of us will walk like cogs and machines through this life in a haze because let's be honest, schools program us, colleges program us, and I'm not against education. I'm for critical thinking. Movies and doctors and all people in authority in the government, we're programmed to be, we're dependent on somebody else for our good life, as opposed to whatever we do affects who we are. Now we take full ownership and we create the life that we want. And it starts in every area of your life: love, parenthood, finances, health, having a body that you can enjoy. So it's time to get the heck out of the matrix.
It's a total emotional upgrade, right? It's recognizing, that all of this conditioning is there, pulling the parts of it that work for you, the things that you want to take forward that are beneficial, but really getting how all these different beliefs impact you and what they're producing in your life and in your body. And the big things that you're talking about, Elena, here, the personal responsibility. And then it also feels like, when you're talking about creating that there's a mess and fixing it, it's really owning our powerful creative capacity, right? Mm-hmm. That also is, like you said, whether we knew we were getting conditioned or not, we are still at the effect of it. So we're still accountable for taking care of what these outcomes are and moving them forward in the way that we want to. But I think again, the worst part of the conditioning is that we are not taught how powerful we are, that what we think, what we believe, and what we want, and the focus of that is literally its own life force energy of creativity to materialize these things.
The moment that you realize that you are at odd cause of creating either illness or health is the moment you break those slavery bonds for good. Because the moment you realize that you can create something is the moment you become the creator of your life. There was a study done many years ago on people who have multiple personality disorders. Now, I use this as an example with my clients a lot to empower them. But they've taken a few people that they were studying and they watched them. And what they've noticed is when there's a personality shift, not in all of them, but in some of them, even the eye color will change, not just the personality. One of the personalities is drug addicted, the other one is not. So when there's a change, all of a sudden the marks from the needles either appear or disappear. There are pimples that appear or disappear. And what they observed, they were so blown away that there was a physiological change right in front of their eyes without any external force. So the reason I'm using that as an example right now, Dr. T, is get excited like a kid.
I know.
Is because
it's our thing, if you can tell.
If people can unconsciously, so people with multiple personality disorders, and now I know you can help people with that because that's your strength. I always tell people that Dr. T can even probably cast the devils out, but that's your power. But what they observed, and my conclusion here is if they can do it unconsciously through a broken psyche, we can take the same power and use it consciously to regrow certain issues, nerves in our bodies. We can heal the thyroid gland, the pituitary gland, the ovaries, the uterus, whatever we're struggling with. My hair used to fall out in droves and then I grew it back. I was not a victim. I was like, I'm going to do this on purpose. My eyebrows were missing. I used to just draw them on. Now they're back. So I took that creative power. I said, if they can do it unconsciously, I'm going to do it on purpose and consciously, because you're absolutely right. We have the creative power that people not again, maybe not on purpose, but our parents were conditioned not to know that, and their parents and grandparents. So generationally, we're conditioned to think we're victims, but inside there's the universe of possibilities and creation within each one of us.
Yeah, we are literally programming our own self, right, for
Yes.
what it is that we want. We're giving ourselves the directions that we want. Um, and I think about this all the time because when I look at the life trajectory of human beings, it looks pretty extreme and excruciating, right?
Mhm.
It's like you're trying to develop as a young person, and usually that's under stress because most people are not educated on how to be in their powerful creative capacity. They're in a reactive existence. So there's a lot of struggle through people's childhood. And then there's all of this struggle for people to literally just be the person they are and call it a job, right?
Mhm.
And bring their contributions forth in an intuitive, powerful way. And then at a certain point, we're just programmed also that at a certain age or whatever, you just start shutting down and you're going to kind of live out the rest of your life as an older person.
Mhm.
And then all of the disease states and everything that are supposed to flow from there, it's just like cue the whole thing. And in reality, that's all programming
It is
and
pure programming.
pure
I
programming. And even though
absolutely.
we've absorbed, I really think, oh my gosh, in my lifetime, the amount of it I've absorbed and also the amount that I have reprogrammed myself for what I want to happen, it's really quite something because we're also in that matrix. We're all around us.
Mhm.
People are believing, well, I'm 60. And so this is what happens when you're 60
Right.
or
So you're
whatever.
over 40, your metabolism is supposed to slow down. You
Ah,
get closer to 50, you wear eyeglasses, you get to whatever age now, you're on 5 medications. And I was falling asleep. It was either last night or the night before. I'm like, I feel like I'm 26 in my body all the time. And now I'm turning 45 in a couple of weeks. But I feel so youthful because it is my choice. Yes, my body changes and yes, it will age, but the way I feel within that body will not age. I am not signing up for a lifetime of medications and saying my metabolism is too slow in a lifetime of this programming, right? At this age, you experience this, at this age, you experience that. The moment you take off the blinders and limitations, you go, whatever the universe wants to flow through this at this, whether you're 2 or 92, totally open to it. Some of us can start living full at 92, still not too late. So
yeah.
yes, out of the matrix into your full divine power. And I think that that's the only thing, Dr. T, that can heal the sick and change this world.
Well, and Elena, I think I'm right with you. And I think about those of us who are more emotionally sensitive, empathic people
Mhm.
who can feel all of what's in the atmosphere. Um, and while that I feel is our great purpose to
Mhm.
recognize that and to transform it, at the same time, think about what it is that we are absorbing. And the more sensitive of us, we're absorbing it more extremely and intensely. So, whatever the beliefs are, right? That whatever it is about your body, whatever it is about dieting, or, I think of something as simple as everybody believing, well, things just take so much time. And I'm thinking, well, that doesn't sound like what I want to sign up
It's a
for.
belief system. It
It's
is a belief
everywhere,
system,
right?
but it's a belief system. Somebody says it takes a long time. I go, why? I just dare to ask and dare to challenge why. Why is it that some of my clients come to me and they've been sick and on medication for 20, 30 years, and we get them well within 3 to 6 months? But we
Right.
take away, we strip away that thought, but it takes a long
Uh,
time.
well, and this is why, and I know, years ago, just thinking about, I knew I was, my navigation system was telling me that it was time to step into a role as a psychologist and really my own version of it and really help people on a deeper emotional level. And when I looked at the things that I thought were sort of some of the worst parts about this emotional matrix, one of them was looking at the area of addiction that my family and so many families have been plagued with. And when I looked at it and I thought, well, look at the healing process is this chronic model, right? So and this is one of our ongoing
Well,
biggest.
let's be honest, there is no healing process because
There is
they,
no
that
right.
Yeah, that it's permanent dependency on somebody or something. That's not a healing model. That's not healthcare. That is sick management care.
Well, and when I looked at it, I studied the history of like Alcoholics Anonymous.
Mhm.
And when I looked at it, I recognized that there was a process going on, a disease process in sensitive people. The more sensitive, the more people are like, God, I got to drown out this
Yep.
awful programming. And then at some point, when it was like, oh, we don't know how to fix this yet, people who were desperate decided, who were really struggling, were like, well, at least we'll hang out together while we're struggling, and we're gonna, recognize that this is chronic, but we're in it together. And I just looked at that going, well, that no wonder that's healings. People are not healed by that. And even if they get sober from that, they are not liberated from this entire identity that they are an addict or they
Right. What's the, I respect all the work that Alcoholic Anonymous does, but what's the belief system? Once an alcoholic, forever an alcoholic. And this, and you know me, it makes my skin crawl because I believe that you don't have to be anything forever unless you choose to be.
yeah. And even as I continue to work in this field and pioneer in the area of addiction, that legitimately addiction can be removed from your life and replaced with what you want it, with what you want. It's still considered mavericky to do that and on the edges of things, rather than like, really, this is what's true, is that
Yes.
there's an emotional process going on with a person. It's not compatible with them.
Mhm.
They're then trying to escape it. And to your earlier point, there is also this chronic addiction with being in struggle and
Yes.
everything that brings. And just for people to realize how many of those layers are going on that are keeping that reality happening. And the real truth that when you're with people like us who will help you connect to the truth of what really is and who you really are, that's what will emerge, and that's how you'll be living the
Right.
rest of your
I would challenge people, Tracy, to be in your and my presence for 3 days and walk
Oh
away
my
still
gosh.
being
Yeah.
sick. I would
Yeah. Well, and
challenge, I would challenge that belief. I once, this was way before even my health days, before understanding what it was. I was always more of a person, I'm in charge of my destiny. And one of my family members was so sick, she couldn't keep anything down. And I got over to her house, brought a meal. I said, listen, as long as you're sitting next to me, you're going to be just fine. She ate the whole meal, didn't throw up once. And it was like, what? But it was a belief system. It's nothing that magical, but it was a belief system.
and they're very embedded, they're very powerful, they're shared by so many people. And the reality is that if you want to be well and happy and healthy and wealthy, you must be with people that actually believe that's possible, that are doing that. And this is why, Elena, in the last couple of years, I've returned to doing recovery retreats with
Mhm.
people, because when they go from the matrix they are in and spend time with myself and my team and healers like you, who literally believe that what they really want is the reality that they can create, they create it. And it's actually not that complicated, but it is something to recondition somebody into their own selves, out of that all of this sort of really crazy making emotional matrix that people are in.
Yeah, and so I'm a physicist by training. So when you talk about reconditioning, I immediately think in points of energy, because this is not woo-woo stuff. This is mainstream physics for you people. We're all energy. We're all vibrate. So I vibrate at the density of Elena, and Dr. T at the density of Dr. T, and the beautiful bookshelf behind you at the density of a bookshelf. But it's all just a bunch of molecules, electrons vibrating and creating this happen. So there is actually, if I were to hook you up to a computer right now with probes on you, we can measure your vibration level at how many hertz you're vibrating. What we know as scientists and physicists is that disease vibration level is really low.
So low.
It, there's your neutral state level, and there's the state level of where healing happens. And what happens is, in order for healing to happen, you need to be stepping up into the vibration field of people who believe and live right here at higher planes. Because if you keep going to doctors, so you're right here, your doctor is right there, you're vibrating at the same, like it's impossible. Your thoughts are energy, they're vibrating there. You're going to always stay here. And you might even go down lower, but you get in. This is why you and I both, we have group also programs, because we get people into a community of people where we condition their mind and they start vibrating here and here and here until one day they go, oh, there are no more symptoms. And with your clients, they go, I'm not bipolar anymore. There's no more schizophrenia. There's no more anything, because what? Their belief system had upgraded, and that's it. You vibrate at a different level, your body restructures itself. So the molecules, they go recondition, restructure. Now there's no more depression and there's joy in your life. It is a belief system. It's a process, but you need to raise this vibration level. Again, this is not new age anymore. This is physics. This is neuroscience. You take your vibration field and you get around people who are not yapping and complaining somewhere in Facebook group, like poor me. That will get you down. Get the hell out away from those people. And you get in the midst of like a recovery retreat or something like that. And you saturate yourself. It's like baptism into your new self. And you do it to the point that you can't think any other way. Dr. T, you and I were in the same business program. Remember that? And we had an amazing coach that was training us in outreach and sales and all. And he was my spirit animal. But I was so sold into his vision of how we can serve humanity. And I wanted to upgrade my mindset so much that I found whatever recordings that he was, whether it was on YouTube or somewhere else, I couldn't find. I downloaded stuff and I would just listen and I would just listen and I would just listen 10 plus hours a day. Was it convenient? Yeah. No. My husband was jealous sometimes. He's like, you're taking him to bed with you again, because it was being in my head. But I dedicated I said, I don't want slow growth. I needed exponential growth. So I saturated myself in the new mindset, new vibration, new expectations. And instead of taking years to become successful in business, it took only months. But it only became possible when I changed that vibration level. I went from, oh my God, is it possible? I don't know how to do, to, oh my goodness, we're worth this much. This is what we do. We're serving the world. Change the energy, change your community, change people who you hang out with, upgrade your mindset. And I believe we can eradicate all diseases.
Well, I love this. This is changing the emotional matrix in the world, right? Yeah. By us doing it, by us claiming it. And Elena, at a time right now where we're obviously seeing the biggest emotional crisis that has ever happened. Yes. And we're seeing the chaos, and we're seeing really the implosion of what all of these terrible belief systems have been doing, and all of just the unrest and all of the struggle that people are having and how it's playing itself out. And so it's likely along the lines of what you're saying, but anything you want to add to what it is that you recommend that people do in these challenging times? Because one of the things we know is, right, people can contract and complain and buy into the struggle. And so what is it that you're recommending for people to do to move forward into the life that they want right now?
Right now, and I thank you so much for that question, because you are 1000% correct, Dr. T. The last year had created an emotional crisis that, if we're not careful, will last for generations. You and I was thinking maybe when we're in our 60s, we can kind of go and kick it back. And we have a new generation of people who are broken that is coming in, and including children. And it is unfortunate. I totally believe that the only way to escape this matrix is to take full ownership. We're not victims, not of a virus, not of a political system, not of anything else. Instead of complaining and withdrawing back, or right now when people are losing their jobs, they go, I'm a victim, I'm a victim, I'm a victim. We had seen the highest increase in suicide, anxiety, depression rate, panic attacks right now than ever before since World War II. That what needs to happen is people understanding that you are nobody's victim. The only way you can become a victim is when you absorb somebody else's message, somebody else's energy field, and make it your own. The moment you wake up and you get fed up and you say no more, here's what I can tell you. I studied business for many, many years. A lot of multi-billion-dollar companies were born during a time of crisis. So if you're without a job right now or your business is suffering, level your mindset. That's it. Look for opportunities. Dr. T, you and I both have experienced there is downturn in business, right? People are not spending as much money, but both you and I went and said, oh, how can we do it differently? I went out, I'm creating a new app. It's going to be rolled out by the end of this month. I said, forget YouTube, forget Facebook, forget Twitter, forget anybody who can bend me with my message of maverick truth, like you said it. I'm going to create my own community and I'm going to provide a healing space for people who need it. So we are getting really, where's the invention? Where's the ingenuity? So right now for women and men who are listening, whether it is a business downturn they're struggling with, whether it is they're losing a job or health, or now they have anxiety, it is only a programming that says you are powerless. Because I'm going to challenge you to say, there is hell going outside my windows right now. What are the opportunities? I have it plastered right on my wall right now. Dr. T is, what are the opportunities? There's in struggle, there's always an opportunity. You had your personal struggle. I had my business, my calling was birthed out of a business struggle, not business, personal struggle. But instead of saying it, poor me, oh my God, why did it happen to me? I said, okay, I suffered, I struggled, I cannot change it. How can I use that as a platform for something greater? So the big message right now is, whether somebody chooses to be unhealthy, depressed, poor, broke, or alone is a personal choice. There's a whole world of mavericks like Dr. T and I. And I would love to invite all of your listeners to join people like us. Go listen to this podcast and many other podcasts that we're putting out there. Join communities that Dr. T has. Join communities of like-minded people. You want to level up and you say, listen, I will not be broke by 2021. Do not go and complain with people who lost their jobs. Go and say, okay, how can I create money out of thin air? But it's not thin air, it's your ingenuity. You are going to say, listen, I have some people who are working with me now, Dr. T, who said, oh, I see that. I could not even see doctors when everything was shut down. I don't want to be dependent on this. Can I please get well so I never have to worry about not being able to see a doctor? The answer is, of course, yes, it's always there. So the biggest message is, all this mess that is going right now is the best opportunity for us to level up as a community and personally, and to step out of the matrix, to step into our pure calling and say we're the creators of this universe, and to speak specifically to sensitive people, which both you and I are, and many others. For those of you who are sensitive people and you're empaths, pick the people you spend time with. We don't want you out there running around unprepared, absorbing the energy of the pain in the universe. Go to a healing place, go to a retreat with Dr. T, hang out in her community, read her book, read my book. You're going to find that you're going to be empowered. And all of a sudden, instead of absorbing the negative energy, you can use the same superpowers and absorb the positive energy to level you up. So that is a personal challenge. Make 2020 the year of, this is my best freaking year ever.
You've heard it from Elena, everyone, because it's really interesting when things feel like that they're at their worst. It's a really big form of emotional training and self-leadership to literally challenge that and just decide differently, to decide it, to focus on it, and to create what you want. And when you do it, when things seem like they are like just ripping apart at the seams, that's truly a sign of the most empowerment, because you're challenging all the billions and billions of belief systems that are out there, all the worries and concerns. And I'm adding on to that challenge to also, and just saying, decide what you want to create and create it, because that's how powerful you are.
Yeah.
That's how truly powerful
They are powerful. And the moment that they realize they're powerful, I think that they're going to go through anything and say, what is the opportunity today? What am I grateful for? Come from a place of the creator. If you have people who have religious beliefs, it does not dethrone your God from this place of creator. You can become a co-creator of this, but ultimately you're going to be the one making the decisions. I always tell my clients this: make a list of I am, I do, I have. So I am, fill in the blank. I do, fill in the blank. I have, fill in the blank, and come from a place of absolute power, strength, and fulfillment. And then you're going to record this for yourself. And then you're going to play it and repeat 20 times a day until you get saturated. When you record it, mean it. So your voice needs to be, I am wonderful. I love myself. I am empowered. I deserve toe curling romance. I deserve the best friends in the world. And you listen to it over and over again. You will never fall prey to another negative support system somewhere. You're going to be in a healing support system. And in the words of Dr. T, your sense of self and selfology is going to be elevated to being acquainted with who you are as opposed to who the world says you're supposed to be.
Elena, this is so powerful, and you're doing so much for people, and you're able to help them with so many different things, right? All the different symptoms they're experiencing, and also all the causal level of them. What is it? What should people do to connect with you and follow you and get your help and services?
Thank you for the opportunity to share that. So 3 places, a website, 360impacthealth.com, or just simply look for Elena Isolde Medici, but 360 Impact Health is very simple to remember. The book is called Son of a Whore. It's available on Amazon in paperback, in ebook, and audiobook as well. And then ultimately my app 360 Degree Life is coming out within less than a month. So it will be by invitation only for the most committed. So that will be also through my website. Look for those. But you also, when you go to my website, you want to connect, drop us a message.
Nice. I love it. Last question, Elena, for our time here today. It's a question I ask everybody, and I'm collecting some really wonderful answers. At some point, I'm going to put it all together and make some sort of a video about it. The question is that, if for some wacky reason, this is the last moment that you were able to give a message to the world, and this would be a message that people would carry on for the rest of their life through the generations, and they'd know this is what Elena taught me, what would that message be?
One sentence: you're not a victim. Beautiful. That's it. You're not a victim. Now I can go deeper on that, but if this was my very last dying breath, I would look you square in the eyes and say, I will tell you, you're the creator and you're nobody's victim. And the difference between being a victim and a creator is one moment's decision. That's it.
Well, you are a powerful creator, Elena. Thanks for powerfully creating with us today. All right. So thank you, everyone, for being with us today. And I just invite all of you to take everything that Elena and I have shared with you and really take it into your heart and into your soul and take it into your cells and really implement it into your life and really create the life that you want. We're really appreciating you all being with us today, and we'll see you next time. Take care.
Have a great day. And thank you so much, Dr. T, for having me.